I am considered the business owner of esMD, which is electronic submission of medical documentation. So today you're just going to get a good overview of what esMD is, where we are at today, and where we plan on going in the future. Next slide. So, what is esMD and why did CMS create it? Next slide. Okay, Medicare receives about 4.8 million claims per day. The Office of Financial Management estimates that each year that Medicare fee-for-service program issues more than $28.8 billion in improper payments, and Medicaid fee-for-service program issues more than $21.9 billion in improper payments. Most of these improper payments can only be detected when a human compares a claim to the actual documentation. You can see on this chart, there's a chart to the right that we got off of paymentAccuracy.gov. HHS is far up in the improper payments by agency. This is something that we want to fix and something that we're working on. Next slide. So just to give you a little bit of background facts, Medicare documentation requests are sent by the following contractors. You might have heard of Medicare Administrative Contractors, MACs, Comprehensive Error Rate Testing Contractors, CERT, Payment Error Rate Measurement Contractor, PERM, and Medicare Recovery Auditors, formerly called RACs. All of those contractors are overseen by my boss, George Mills, and Melanie Combs-Dyer. These claim review contractors issue over 1 million requests for the medical documentation each year. And we believe this number is even higher than 1 million. But claim review contractors currently receive most of the documentation in paper form or via fax. So you can see on the bottom, these are other types of medical documentation requests are sent by you, other types of review contractors. And on the right-hand side, you can see who they're overseen by. A lot of them in the OFMSG group. Next slide. So before esMD, this is what it looks like. The ADR letter went out through the U.S. Postal Service to the provider requesting for additional documentation. The provider then packages all the documentations up and sends it back to the U.S. Postal Service to the review contractor that requested this documentation. What's particularly frustrating about this process is if the provider has the EHR system, they have to actually print all this documentation out, package it all up, and send it back to the U.S. Postal Service. And guess what the review contractor does when they get it? They actually scan all this documentation in. So you can see it's a very costly and time-consuming process that we believe we could fix with esMD. Next slide. You could click it one more time. So the solution is electronic submission of medical documentation, also known as esMD. As everyone should know, Phase 1 went live September 15, 2011, where the ADR letter is still going out to the U.S. Postal Service, but now the provider has a way to respond electronically, and it's much quicker. Click it again, please. And in Phase 2, which is a future phase, the ADR letter will be sent out electronically, and then the provider will have a way to, provider already has a way to respond back electronically as well. Next slide. Right now, esMD is not mandatory for providers. We understand that not all providers are adopting this kind of solution. Some people like to rely on the fax system and U.S. Postal Service, but reality is there are a lot of providers using EHR systems that have been asking for esMD and are ready for it, like right now. We do get a lot of questions from providers asking us if they start using esMD, would they be targeted for more reviews because it's easier? And we have noted in our program integrity manual that you cannot target a provider just because they use esMD. And a lot of providers are very excited about that. Next slide. So these are just some of the benefits that we noticed for using esMD. Quicker turnaround. You have providers reporting that the payment turnaround went from 3 weeks to 6 days. It reduced a lot of labor costs and has reduced all of the hard costs. So these are just some of the benefits that we've noticed. Next slide. How do I get started? Next slide. Providers who want to get started have to follow 2 steps. First, they need to find out if the review contractor accepts esMD, and step 2, obtain access to an esMD gateway. Next slide. So this is step 1. As you can see on the left-hand side, these are all the approved CMS review contractors at CMS. So this is what you would do. You would go in here to look to see if the review contractor that you send documentation to is on this list on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side are all of the review contractors that actually go through testing and will be soon move to the left-hand side as an approved CMS review contractor. We tell everybody to please visit our website at www.cms.gov/ESMD because this changes all the time, and we will have new review contractors that are coming on. So we want everyone to come to this link URL and visit that site if you need to know if there's any updated information. Next slide. Step to obtain access to a gateway. Basically, our gateway was built using standards, protocols, legal agreements, and specifications that allow for secure and private exchange. Before, it was also known as Nationwide Health Information Network. Now it's called eHealth Exchange, but it's the same exact thing. It's overseen by the Office of the National Coordinator for Health IT. It includes just standards for a secure gateway. And it just allows for us to submit documentation safely and securely. Next slide. This again just tells you that CMS uses the Connect brand gateway. Again, it just says we went live September 15, 2011. And that's all. Next slide. How can providers obtain access to a gateway? They can do it two ways. They can build their own gateway. We haven't had a lot of providers really necessarily do this. They usually contract out with HIH because it's very costly, and if you don't understand the technical abilities with Connect, it can be very difficult to build your own gateway. Or you can provide a contract out with a health information handler, and that's who is going to show their system a little later today of how to use their attachment. Next slide. Basically, we do not here, CMS is not going to dictate how the judge communicates with their provider. We just want to make sure that the HIH users make sure they stay within HIPAA standards and make sure they're not violating anything. We have seen some HIHs actually go into providers' facilities. Some even have used secure web portals or even VPNs. We have some esMD HIHs are considering using direct right now. We don't have anybody using that, but we do have some links here that if you want more information, you can click on those, and those are probably more for your technical folks that want more information about direct. Next slide. Will this be done in phases? So this shows you the bigger picture of phase one. As you can see, the documentation request letter is going out to the provider requesting for additional documentation. The provider, however the connection is with HIH, as you can see, the HIH's gateway is directly connected to our gateway here at CMS. That little box that's connecting, that little pretty box with all the right security wrappers and bows. It goes across into our gateway, comes through our gateway, and it goes up through CTS and ECN, where the review contractors, whether it be the Medicare RACs, PERM, or CERT, actually poll every couple hours and pull this documentation out. This happens instantly. It happens immediately. So it doesn't take a lot of time for this to even take place or to even happen. And just to note, it's a good thing to note that the providers, with how their HIH is set up, they will get an acknowledgement letting them know that the review contractor has to put the documentation. I know a lot of providers have a lot of questions, and how am I going to know that my documentation has been sent to CMS and I don't know if they picked it up. So that is something that is very important. I think that, it's very nice that the providers like to hear. Next slide. This is a bigger picture of showing the prior authorization of power mobility devices. This is something fairly new that we've opened up another use case to submit through esMD. Now that, as many of you might have known, there are 7 different states that we have on a pilot right now where they have to actually send documentation in before the wheelchair is actually given to the patient. They have to go through prior authorization for this. So now, instead of taking a lot of time, we started using esMD for this, which is very nice and neat. So now either the physician or the supplier sends the documentation to the HIH, which comes down through our Connect compatible gateway and through ECN, and then the review contractor actually pulls the documentation. It's kind of a quicker way for the documentation to be sent over to the review contractors. Especially the DME MAC. That's really what it is. Next slide. We're excited about this part because this is something that we're working on now. We're hoping that this is going to go later this summer, at the end of the summer, where now not only will the provider supplier be able to send their prior authorization through esMD, now they're going to get the responses back from the DME Max saying yay, nay, or we need more information, just something like that. And this is happening instantaneously. So this allows us to get the patient, if they really need their wheelchairs, really need their supply, this allows us to get it to them quicker because we don't want it to be a long process where the patient is waiting for this results to come back. So now we're looking at opening up and expanding esMD to actually receive the results from the HIs to the provider. So we're very excited about this. This is something that we're looking into right now. And we're actually working on it. And we're thinking maybe late July or August for us to open up this use case. Next slide. So this just shows a bigger picture of us expanding out to other types of review entities. Right now, as you already know, it was just the other ones we showed before, but we would love to expand this out to other than MICs, the QIOs, the Quality Improvement Officer. We would like this to be more of an enterprise system here for CMS. But this just shows you some examples of other areas that we can expand out to with the esMD. And so this could kind of be more of a one-stop shop. Next slide. Click again. So this is phase 2 of our future release. We are not here yet, but we are currently working on moving towards esMD phase 2. As you can see, the difference in this slide is the bidirectional lines between the provider and the HIH and between the review contractor and the gateway. Before we move here, we're going to have to figure out a lot of different things. We're going to have to make sure we set up a provider registry because there are a lot of security things that before we can send out PHIs to a provider, we have to make sure that we know that provider is who they say they are. So before we can move to phase 2, we have to figure out how to set up a provider registry that's going to actually validate and make sure that provider is who they say they are. It might be having them get digital certs or some other things. We are entertaining that now and looking into that. But before we can move to phase 2, we're really going to have to figure out how to make sure we send out PHI and PHI through this system, but make sure we're not violating any type of HIPAA violations or anything else like that. So this is just a work in progress, but we're going to get there soon. Next slide. You can click it again. So this just shows the current and future use cases for esMD. As I stated before, when we went live September 15, 2011, we started responses to documentation request letters and PDF. Now we are at the part where we're at power mobility devices for prior authorization requests and PDF. And we're excited about that. So we're even looking like real soon to open it up for appeal requests. This is a lot of providers have requested us to open it up for that because it will make their process a lot easier for the providers out there. So we're looking at opening this up for appeal requests. When we move to phase 2, we're going to more have structured orders and progress notes. We're currently doing different type of work groups right now, centers and work groups right now where we're going to try to develop a structured order where providers are able to actually fill this documentation out to make it much easier for them to know what CMS is required, what kind of information is required for CMS to make sure the claims are done correctly. So even some opt-down features, we're looking at structured opt-down documentation request letters, some power mobility device prior authorization responses, demand letters, and maybe even down the line have some lookup features for esMD. So this is something that we're looking into and we're excited about expanding esMD there. Next slide. Providers signed up with the esMD. Right now this number is outdated, so we are probably about over 5,000 unique providers, I believe, as of right now. So that just shows you that esMD is expanded. I think when we first started it was only like 30 or even less than that. So you can just see that esMD has grown. We've had over 400,000 submissions through esMD, and we're very excited. We expect it to grow as time follows. Next slide. So for more information, you can contact anybody on our esMD team at QSI. Those are the contractors that actually built our gateway here at CMS. Or you can contact Fastrack for esMD services, and their information is on this slide. And I'm going to turn it over to them for their part of the presentation.
Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to, before I start doing a presentation on Fastrack's Audit Response System, I've seen a few people who are registered and have joined us this afternoon. In the event that you joined late, please, if you don't mind holding your questions. Currently, we have everybody muted upon entry into the session because we are recording this to be placed out on our website later on. And at the end, we will unmute everyone for Q&A. Thank you. What you see here is the login screen for the Fastrack Audit Response System. This is Fastrack's methodology and way for you to transmit your items back to CMS for the contractor to pick up. When you log into this, these sections of the screen will all be blank, and you will have to choose your company here at the top and say select. When you come in, we default you to all of your audits. And again, I'm not going to do a full overview of this today. There is a full recording already available on our WebEx site. It is a free recording that just requires a password. And that password is lowercase e, lowercase s, capital M, capital D, the esMD. When you create your audit requests here in Fastrack, you have the ability to assign the claim ID and the case number that are provided to you in the demand letter or the request for documentation letter that comes back to you from CMS. It is important that you do have these claim IDs and case numbers entered here in the system properly. This is one of the biggest errors that people will receive back, is due to an inaccurate ID and case number. One of the things our system does offer you here in the options is the ability to set a claim and case mask depending on the particular auditor. As I mentioned earlier, when you come in, we default you to all of your audits that you've created in the system. We do give you a number of sorting options and capabilities here. You can look at only your open, active audits. You can sort them by due date. You can look at audits that have been locked or marked for submission, audits that have been submitted, picked up by the contractor, the transmission failed, or that are past due. When you're creating a new audit, you have the ability to give it a due date. According to Mia, and Nicole, I do have you unmuted in case you want to add anything throughout here. You can submit audits right up until the deadline. Their preference, if at all possible, would be that you at least get the audit submitted to them 24 hours in advance of the due date. Over here, you'll notice user. This is the Fastrack usernames in your system, and so you can sort by the user who created the audit. And additionally, we've given you some search options here of searching by patient name, claim ID, case number, NPI. You may be submitting audits for more than one NPI number, audits that are due within a specific amount of days or less, and you can search for audits based on the date they were created. When going in to create a new audit, you'll notice that it does come in here. It asks you to choose the auditor. So here you can see those recovery audit contractors, the MAC, the CERT, the PERM, and the DME MAX, as Joyce mentioned earlier. The approved VPICs. And then Mia also offers you a test auditor in the event that you want to send one in as a test first. Here's where you can give that submit till date. Your create date is always going to default as the day that you create the audit in the Fastrack system. I can list my submit till date based on the due date in my letter. If you have registered multiple NPI numbers with Fastrack, here you will have a drop-down arrow which will allow you to choose which NPI number you intend to submit for. And then you have a patient lookup, which will allow you to search the patients in your Fastrack database. You will need to come in and give us part of the patient name and retrieve. When I select my patient, let me go ahead and put in a audit here, going to the test. And create my audit. So now you see here's my new audit with my date created of May 30th, my due date of July 5th. At this point in time, I can attach documents to this audit. You can add a document which will take you out to your local drives to search, or below that you will see you have the option to load documents. The Load Documents option here links you directly in to the Fastrack imaging database where you can go directly into a patient's account, and you will see all of the images that are in that patient record where you can choose and upload. By default, I want to point out here that images and documents are transmitted to MIA and subsequently to CMS and the contractor in the order that they are attached here. So you will want to make sure that the very first document you attach is your audit letter, your request letter, followed by your reply letter if you've issued one, and then your documents. In the event that you do attach a document in the wrong place in the list here, you will have the ability to be able to drag and drop them into the correct order. Here we have the ability to view a document and also to remove that document. At the bottom third of the screen, you'll notice it says Notes. These are audit notes that are kept within the audit module. So I can come in here and say, this is my note. And create that note. Just like throughout the remainder of the Fastrack course system, your notes are going to be date and time stamped with the user who entered them. In addition, you will be able to edit your notes here. And then I want to point out that you can push to HME. When you do this, this will create a default note category in the patient record in the course system called Audit Notes, if it's not already been created. When you go to push, you simply get a notice telling you that your notes have been uploaded to the patient notes. You can also view all of the patient notes from right here within the audit module. So you don't have to be flipping back and forth between the course system and the audit system to see those patient notes. If you try to upload a note that you have previously uploaded, it's going to know that. It's going to ask you if you want to upload it a second time. And then the last thing, circling back around up here to my list at the top, you'll notice here that you have the ability to edit an audit. You can only edit active, open audits, or audits that have failed or are overdue. Once an audit has been received by Fastrack, forwarded on to MIA, received by MIA, sent to CMS, or picked up by the contractor, you are unable to open, unlock, or edit that audit. You have the ability to delete an audit. Again, you can only delete an active, failed, or overdue audit that's been unlocked. Locking audits. The audit does have to be locked before it can be submitted. I would choose my open audit, choose lock, and it asks me if I want to lock it as ready to send. Notifies me it's now been that it's ready. The next icon here is my send audits. You'll notice that my status over here has changed to lock. If I go to send my audits, it will show me a list of all locked audits. At this point, I can tag it and send. I could tag multiple or just the ones I wish to send. It's been submitted. At this point, notice that my status changed, that it's been received by Fastrack. The green arrow that you see here updates my statuses, and then the last one is a printer, which will allow me to print some audit reports. Over here to the right, as I've been over here, you may have seen these 3 little dots pop up along each of these audits. This is your history bar for what has happened. When you look at my audit, you can see that the audit has been created, the date and time it was locked, and that it was sent. When it gets assigned, received by Fastrack, it does assign a Fastrack audit number to it, and these statuses will change accordingly. Looking at a few of my old ones, you can see on May 23rd, I created an audit, and as we look at that, you'll notice that it was created, locked, sent, and now you can see each time I've pressed the green arrow to check on the status of that audit, it updates the status and gives me my messages. Previously, you'll see I have some audits that show that they were picked up by the contractor. In these examples, you can see that not only were they created, locked, and sent, but we can see that it was received by MIA, assigned a reference and tracking number with MIA, and then ultimately picked up by the contractor. I'm working off of a test system. In a live version of the audit, you are going to see that it was received by MIA, forwarded to CMS, received by CMS, sent to the contractor, and then picked up by the contractor. And then additionally, if you have transmissions that fail, you will see here that we do tell you in a message why it failed. In the case of these, they failed because my NPI number is not correct. As I mentioned earlier, one of the big reasons for failed audit submissions is that the case number, claim ID number, are not in the proper format. So that just shows a little bit about the Fastrack system. A few key things in case these are usually common questions that come up. The Fastrack server is available to receive audits 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We package and transmit to MIA approximately every 30 minutes. There is no set delay on MIA's end. MIA takes the audits as they receive them in from all of their clients and customers, Fastrack and similar. They package them and they forward them on to CMS. According to our contacts at MIA, the average time can be minutes up to about an hour or two before your audit is submitted on to Medicare. Everything does, as I mentioned, get date and time stamped along the way so that you do have that for an appeals basis if needed later on. Okay. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and unmute the group so that we can take questions and answers.
Hi, this is Rhonda with Memorial Hermann Home Health.
Hi, Rhonda.
Hi. My question is with regards to using the system, your esMD system, for patients that are not necessarily in the Fastrack system. Is that possible?
It is not. Your patient would have to be created in the Fastrack system to be able to upload through our Audit Response System at this time.
Okay. Thank you. Will there be?
And just remember, I just want to state that all lines are unmuted, so if you don't mind, if you don't have questions, you would just like to listen, please feel free to mute your own lines. Thank you.
Started in late. Tell me how to mute my line so I don't have noises to disrupt.
You can mute your phone line, or directly, if you're using a headset, mute your headset using its mute functionality. Are there any other questions?
Well, this is Rhonda again. Will there be
Yes, Rhonda.
Will there be any enhancements to be able to use the esMD system for patients that are not listed in Fastrack?
Well,
None that we are aware of at this time.
I have a question. Isn't your Fastrack system able to connect with the providers, though, where you don't have to, where it's automatic? Is that how it works? This is Joyce Davis. I don't think the patients have to be placed in there. I think this is something that it's automatically joined together. Is that correct?
Well, MIA is the HIH that Fastrack uses. So the Fastrack Audit Response module that we just saw the demonstration of ties directly to the Fastrack core database for patients, and then all documentation, Joyce, is transmitted over to MIA to be submitted on to CMS.
Hey, this is Suzanne, and I just had a question. How did you get to the screen where you were able to enter all your data? So which screen, how did you get that within Fastrack, or is that a separate module that you have to purchase?
Oh, yeah.
It is a separate module that has to be purchased. You can contact your sales rep or sales@fastrk.com to receive more information.
Just to add one other thing, once you do purchase the module, it will appear as an icon on your desktop, which you can keep open or open it as you need it.
I have a question. My name is Shannon. I'm with United Medical. We're a DME provider. And all of our requests we receive for documentation is through the mail. When you're entering in an audit with all of your documentation, and you said the first thing to attach is a request, do I need to scan that into the in order to transfer it to the audit documentation?
Not only can we use it for
You would, Shannon. Remember, normally when you send a hard copy mail package back into CMS, you put that letter on top. So similar to that, you would want that letter to be at the top of your electronic package as well. As I mentioned in attaching documents, you can either scan it into Fastrack imaging if you're using our imaging, or you can scan it and save it locally on your computer and attach it from there.
Okay, we have everything saved into Fastrack.
So either way.
Thank you.
Not a problem. And again, I know there are people that are still talking amongst themselves in the background. I am going to go ahead and start muting people again. We're having a hard time hearing some of the questions that are coming in and them being able to hear our answers. Do we have any other questions out there, either for the Fastrack staff, anybody who has questions for Mia? Nicole is with us, and then Joyce is still with us from the CMS office regarding esMD.
I think there might be a call from Shannon.
If there are no more questions, we can go ahead and let everybody go. I do want to thank...
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, my name is Maria. I still have one question. It was in reference when you were talking about the pre-authorizations through the Power Mobility. Can that be also used, would it be used in manual
We never
wheelchairs?
charge a delivery fee, so your current insurance and copay will apply to each order.
Hello? I'm sorry.
That's,
Say it again?
I apologize, Maria. Somebody put their phone on hold without muting it, so we didn't hear the end of your question.
Okay, it's in reference to the slide you were showing in reference to pre-authorizations for the power mobility. Can that also be applied to other items, or is this for the power mobility?
For right now, that's all that it's tied to. It could open up to other things, but primarily that's what it's used for right now.
Okay, because I do notice that on some letters when we do get the audits or the medical conflicts or just a conflict, just a review, it says that at this time also providers can submit voluntarily to try to get. So it's something that you have to do it through the mail then or faxing it in.
Yeah, because right now there's several. Well, they could send it in anyway now if they wanted to, but there's several different states that are actually on the pilot right now, where the issue that they were having was there was a lot of improper, I guess, usage or proper payment set out for the actual wheelchairs. I think they found error rate in that area the most. And what happened is, technically, a patient is not supposed to have a wheelchair unless it is required inside the home. I know there's a lot of things out there on commercials just saying like Medicare will just give you a scooter or whatever else, but that's not the truth. The truth is that the wheelchair has to be required within the home before the patient can actually have the wheelchair issued out to them.
Okay. And I know that they have their criteria that have to be notated down in the patient's files.
Correct.
And that's been my concern or main dilemma of getting that from the doctor's offices. And that would be great if there was something like that where we just submit it and say, you know what, hey, yes, it's being authorized. No, it's not.
Right.
So people don't have to wait so long.
Exactly.
Okay, well, thank you.
Okay, we have another question. Can everybody hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Rhonda. What is the web address to research esMD via Medicare's website? Joyce, do you have that?
Say it one more time.
What is the web address to research esMD via Medicare's website?
Okay, yes, that's on the slide. As you can see, it's right there. I think it's on the slide that's up right now, www.cms.gov/ESMD. Any other questions?
You can either raise your hand or you can type them in the chat box if you're having trouble and we're not hearing you. Maria, did you have another question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, because your hand was still up.
Sorry.
It's okay. Does anybody, okay, we have, Wakwas, you have a question?
I'm good, Gail, thank you.
Okay, no problem. So your hand was up too.
Oh. I'll put it up.
Okay, as Petey had said, we did record this session. It will be available in the training center so that you will get the Joyce's portion of it with all the CMS information, in addition to Dee Dee's overview, and we also do have the recorded session just on the Fastrack portion of it. And again, those are free sessions, and they are available out for you. If you want the Fastrack alone, it is just password protected. It is The password is esMD. The ES is lowercase, the MD is in caps. And if there are no more questions, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us, and thank you, Nicole and Joyce, for your participation today. And of course, Dee Dee, thank you very much for presenting this for us.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.